Hello everyone, welcome back in Hotel Mammon video lecture. Myself Arvind Chauhan, Assistant Professor, BBD University, Lucknow. I'm here to deliver a lecture on your food and beverage service, which is given topic.
So welcome to next video of Unit 1 beer. So now I'm resuming for your previous topic. We are going to continue with the yeast. So we previous video you have learned about the history of the beer, what is the beer, and what are the ingredients used in the beer. And in ingredients you have learned about the yeast also. So I'm concluding the yeast. So what is the yeast basically? All right. So today we will learn about the yeast. Yeast. So go to the moving the slides. See the type of brewing yeast. There is two type of brewing yeast. One is ale yeast and the Swiss yeast. Quickly go to the another one. So type of yeast used in a what kind of beer making? This is the very important because the yeast is play a key role during the fermentation of malted barley. So yeast, as you can see in this picture, there is a top fermented yeast is name is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So the top fermented yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and the bottom fermented yeast is Saccharomyces pulchrinus. All Saccharomyces culsbergiensis. This is another name, another scientific name of the bottom fermented yeast. See the dominant type of yeast used to make beer are top fermenting and bottom fermenting. Top fermenting beer are the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and bottom fermented yeast are Saccharomyces pastörianus. And also another name is Saccharomyces carlsbergiensis. Saccharomyces carlsbergiensis. All right. And in another you can see in the picture is lambic, and then after there is Brettanomyces ferments. Moving to the next slide, as here you can see the picture of the different kind of yeast, different what are the component, what are the how it look like as a biologically, how it look like biologically. So there is a Swiss yeast, ale yeast, and a lager, and the lambic yeast. So in the different kind of beer we are producing different kind of yeast, as you can see here. Moving to the next slide. Okay, one by one I'm going to discuss about the each and every one. As you can see here, the Swiss yeast, ale, and the lager, and the lambic. So by the symbol you can recognize, you can identify what are actually the things yeast. So the first one is Weiss. Weiss basically is a Bavarian origin, and you also can say Weiss is basically a Belgium origin. It's considered as a wheat beer. So Weiss is considered the wheat beer. So in Belgium, the people are making wheat beer by the yeast of Weiss. And in the east, there is a produced beer that has spicy cloves, vanilla, and nutmeg flavor. So the flavor of the yeast is yeast flavor is cloves, nutmeg, and vanilla flavors. And as you can see the symbolics, the what is the temperature about the warm for the yeast is 65 to 72 Fahrenheit, 65 to 70 Fahrenheit, or you can say that 12 to 35 degrees Celsius. Moving towards the next slide is the lager. Is the lager. Lager are again a beverage of origin to 14 thousands in Munich, 14 in 14 in Munich, cool fermentation, selective pressure taken to Pilsner and Copenhagen in 1840s. Pale malt. All right, just a moment. So I'm talking here about the lager yeast in kind of the lager beer. What kind of yeast we are using? So here you can see the lager yeast. So again is a 14 in Moniz, the cool fermentation selective pressure taken to Pilsen and Copenhagen in 1840s. Pale malt, salt water, aromatic hops. It's also again terms become very popular. Lager yeast is a become very popular display ale yeast. Popularity fueled by advance of industrial revolution, steam powered refrigeration, rerolled pasteurization and filtration technology. They are the way you can store the yeast. Stain are closely and also they are preparing by this. Stain are closely related. Common origins: cool to fermentation temperature 42 to 52 Fahrenheit. Beer are most delicate, clean, drinkable, and less aromatics. So the lager beer are the more delicate, clean, and drinkable, and less aromatic beer. This is more drinkable as compared to others. Okay, we did not discuss the ale. So the ale is a synonymous of for beer. Synonymous for beer and ale the top fermenting yeast. So ale is a very known for the top fermented beer, top fermented yeast. When we talk about the characteristic of the beer is by the more fruity flavor and aromatic with the malty, full bodies flavor. Prior to the 18s, ales were almost universal, and the temperature required for the ale yeast is 64 Fahrenheit to 72 Fahrenheit. Ferment less fully and less discriminately. All right, moving towards the next slide. Okay, so again you can see in the screen there is the hops. Is again a very good important components of the making beer and very good ingredients of the beer. So microbial stabilization hops have antiseptic qualities. So as it is written over here, hops have a different kind of qualities. That's why the people. That's why different brewers add different kind of hops. So here we are going to discuss about the form, about the bitterness, balance, malt, and sweetness. Bitterness of the beer, balance, and how you have to balance and sweetness of the beer. Hop, aroma, fruity flavor characteristic, and form stabilize, enhance head property. Okay. So hops species of beer. There are two primary hops style. First one is aroma hops and bitter hops. Aroma hops is categorized under three categories. First one is Saaz, Fugel, and Hallertua. And bitter hops are Brewer's Gold and Unique. So as you can see in this slide, there are two primary kind of hops. First one is very aromatic hops, and another one is bitter hops. Like it's give bitter flavor to the beer, and aromatic hops is give very much aromatic flavor to the beer. So the hops are grow around the world between 35th and 55th degree of latitude and harvest in fall. All right. As you can see here, how it look like, how it is hopes. This is the image of the hope, picture of the hope. You can see here. You can recognize by the by this. It's like a small blossom of flower. Okay, moving to the next slide. So we all know that hops is very important ingredients for the beer making. So if in sometimes suppose we are making beer and we don't have hops ingredients, So we can, it is possible to make the hops or not, it is possible to make the beer or not without hops. So of course it is possible. So there is a substitute for the hops. Instead of hops we can add another substitutes of hops ingredients. Like before the 13th century until the 16th century, beer was flavored with other plants. For instance, grain of paradise or ale hoop. Another discrimination is combination of various aromatic herbs, berries, and even ingredients like wormwood would be combined into a mixture known as groot and used as a hoop or now used. Sorry. So earlier the people are used to do it instead of hoop. They used to use wormwood for the bitterness of the beer, and also the its mixture is called groot used for the hoop or now also it is used. Then look to the another. Generally, a beer created without the use of hope is called a groot. A groot, and also another way you can say groot, G-R-U-T, groot, can also be a term used for the mixture of spices working as bitterness agent in the beer. As we all know that hops is the bitterness agent to the beer and aromatic agent to the beer. All really anything else a groot produced through would taste good in their brew. Groot fell out of common uses in the last centuries or two. Some herbs commonly used in groots: sweet ale, mugwort, arrow, or around heather, juniper. See, the juniper is very important ingredients for the beer to give the bitter taste to the beer also, and this is a very common use for making or a production of gin. So this is the also gin making ingredients also. So you can say juniper is a very important role play in production of gin. Ginger, as you can say, this is ginger in India. There are so many uses for curries, uses for tea, uses for the black tea. Any seed, as you know, caraway seed, as you know, also. So this is used to like infuse the flavor into the beer, right? Whole we cannot put on that. So you have to just infuse the flavor into the liquid. Okay. As you can see here, there is another term. Water is a very important role play. So the makes up 92% of the beer. Water makes up 92% of beer. Water can be mitigated. Soft water adds smoothness, yes of course. Hard water helps add crispiness. So salt water add crispiness. As earlier I told you the previous video. See the water differs a lot because it's vary the taste. So water is very important in preparing a beer because the 92% of what 92 percentage of water there in the beer. Water still can be affect flavor. Yes, of course. Okay. Examples of clarifying agent. So next topic is what are the clarifying agents? Okay, once the beer is made or suppose the beer is done, so how to clarify the beer? So there is a more example of clarifying agent. Examples of clarifying agent includes isinglass is also discussed in previous video. Isinglass obtained from the swim bladder of fish, erismos a seaweed, and copa carogenum from the seaweed again, and polyclear artificial angelity. If a beer is marked suitable for wagon, it was clarified either with seaweed or with artificial agent. Okay, moving towards the next slide. Slide is type of beer. So earlier you have read about the type of the yeast used in the beer, and now this is the type of beer. So you have to remember, you have to learn. This is because of this is the very important as per your examination. So types of beer. First one is the lager and the ale. So lager beer, the lager means to store. Lager means to store. And ales is synonymous for beer. Ale is synonyms for beer. So lager, another definition. Lager is a bottom fermenting yeast. Lager is a bottom fermenting yeast, and ale is a top fermenting yeast. So lager is a bottom fermenting, and ale is a top fermenting yeast. Fermented at lower temperature 50 Fahrenheit, and fermented at higher temperature 64. So ale is fermented in high temperature and lager is fermented in low temperature. Right? I hope it is you are getting. Next, larged close to freezing for several weeks, okay, and fermented less fully and less discriminately. Fermented less fully and discriminately. Ale we ferment less. Okay, next characteristic, next difference is characterized by the crisp tasting, lighter body and less fruity aroma, rounded, smoother beer, characterized by more fruity flavor and aromas with malty, full body flavor. Okay, lager is over the last 150 years on, so lager have become the predominant beer. Ale prior to 18s, ales were almost universal. Prior to 80s, it is from the prior to 80s, the ales are universal. Okay, so now again we are going to have some examples of the lager and the ale. Ale and tart fermented beer. Yes, you know that ale is a type of the tart fermented beer. See the barley. It's also called barley wine. It is a dark fruity beer with a high alcohol content, which ranges from 6 to 11% by volume. Alright, so another one is a bittler. It is a copper-colored draft ale with predominant hop flavor, which result in bitter. Bittler is a bitter flavor, and brown in dark brown sweet beer, low in alcohol. Brown is a dark brown sweet color, low in alcohol. Okay, next one is mild. Is example of the ale top fermented beers. Mild is slightly hopped, faintly sweet beer, which is slightly weaker and dark than bitter. Ale, this beer with 30% alcohol by volume, were meant for drinking in large quantity by manual workers. So mild you can have in a large quantity, and this is 3% alcohol, and this is very weaker beer. Okay, moving to the next slide. Another one is a porter. Porter is a kind of a beer. Since this ale is popular among the porters of Dublin and London, it is called porter. It is brewed from charred malt, which contribute bitter taste and dark color. So, because of the charred malt, is give the smoky and bitter taste to the beer, and this is very popular in the Dublin and London. So, porter is very important. Ale beer popular in the London and Dublin. Another beer is Scotch. Scotch ale. It is a very strong, often extremely dark, malt scented beer from Scotland. Scotch ale is from the Scotland. This is very dark, extremely dark, and malt concentrated. Okay, another one is the Strout. Strout, a very dark beer made with a high proportion of malt and hops. The world most famous Strout is Guinness. It's recorded in the Guinness book. Stout, a very dark beer made with a high proportion of malt and hops. The world most famous stout is Guinness. This is the name of the famous beer is Guinness. Okay, moving to the next slide. Next is another type of beer is lager, which is bottom fermented beer. Ale is a top fermented beer and lager is a bottom fermented beer. Always remember this. Okay. So we will learn one by one what are the lager examples of the lagers beer. Bock. See, this is very important beer because it is a strong beer from Germany. In the US is darker and sweeter. Belgium Bock is less alcoholic. So in alcohol, you can start with as you know that alcoholic drinks are from 0.5% to 75% alcohol volume by volume. So this is the definition of the alcoholic beverage. Another examples is Doppelbock. It is a extra strong beer from Germany. As the name is Doppelbock, the extra strong beer from the Germany. Dortmunder is blonde beer with a lightly hopped flavor. This is another example. Munchener, it is a dark brown malty beer with alcoholic content of around 5%. Ice beer, it is a strong beer. The strength is obtained by freezing since the water before alcohol. The ice crystal are removed to concentrate the beer. Ice beer is a strong beer. This is all the examples of the lager beer. Another, this is very very important. Pilsner beer. Pilsner, it is pale gold beer originated in Pilsen, Czech Republic. It is most limited for of all beer style. It is most limited as compared to all beer styles. Okay, moving to the next slide. So just go to one by one individual. Is a real ale. What is a real ale? As you can see the symbol of the beer also, and with the glass of beer. It is a term coined by the champion of our real ale, Camera, in 1973 for beer brewed from traditional ingredients matured by secondary fermentation in the container from which it is dispensed and served without the use of extraneous carbon dioxide. Alright, so the real ale basically it is earlier used to serve without CO2. Right. Next, moving to the next slide. Alright, just a moment. Okay, moving to the next slide is pale ale. So what is the pale ale? Pale ale is a beer which used a top fermenting yeast and predominantly pale malt. It is one of the world's major beer style. It is one of the most major beer style. All right. In the previous slide, you have must have seen the glass. This is the glass name. Name of the glass is the Pilsner. All right. Okay. I hope you are getting. So next slide. Next beer is a stout. Is again stout. Basically, this is porter are the darker beer made using roasted malt or roasted barley, typically brewed with slow fermenting yeast. The name porter was first used in 1721 to describe the dark beer popular with the street and the river porter of London. This same beer later also become known as stout. This is same beer known as also becomes stout. All right, and you must have know stout is a ale beer, so it's a top fermented. A very dark beer made by the high proportion of malt and hops. The word famous is, you know, the record for Guinness. Stout and porter are dark beer made using the roasted barley. Okay, so stout is the famous stout name is Guinness. This is a very very important. Okay, moving to the next slide. Mild ale. What is the mild ale? We have already discussed about the definition. So mild ale, you can see the picture also. This is the black and dark color. Mild ale has a predominant malty palate. It is usually dark color with an alcohol volume by volume 32 to 30.6%. Although there are lighter hue mild, they can also reach up to 6% to ABV strong ale. So this is different categorized. There is the light ale also and the strong ale. The most strong ale is the percentage alcoholic percentage would be 6%, and the light ale the alcoholic percentage would be the 3 to 3.6%. All right. Again, is the wheat. Wheat beer is brewed with a large proportion of wheat. Uh, You can see on the picture also. Wheat beer are usually top fermented in Germany. They have to be by law. They have to be by a law. So in the Germany, they have to they have something they have some important law which they have to follow. Another term is lambic. So the lambic beer, lambic, or you can you have already discussed about the lambic. Lambic beer is a Belgium and naturally fermented using wild yeast rather than cultivated. So this is the very important lambic beer made by the using wild yeast. All right. Many of these are not strained of brewer yeast. Brewer yeast Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Brewer yeast Saccharomyces cerevisiae and may have significant difference in aroma and sources. Yeast varieties such as Brettanomyces bruxellensis and Brettanomyces lambicus are common in lambics. So the wild yeast, the name is Saccharomyces exiguus, also known as S minor. You can write note down the lambic beer. They are using wild yeast. The wild yeast name is Saccharomyces exiguus and also name is S minor. Saccharomyces minor. The wild is found on the plants, fruit and grains. In next chapter, you will learn about the wild is also in grapes, production of the grapes. So wild is you have seen in the grapes, you can see the in whitish color grape, whitish cover powder is covered with the grapes, covered onto the grapes. So this is the wild is. Okay, lager is a cool fermented beer. Pale lager are most commonly consumed. The name lager comes from the German lager uh, for store, as you have learned. So lager means to store, means too many beers you can store. All right, okay. Lager yeast is a cool bottom fermenting yeast, Saccharomyces pastorium, and typically undergoes primary fermentation at 7 to 12%, 12 degrees Celsius fermentation phases, and then it is give a long secondary fermentation at 0 to 4 degrees Celsius, the larging phases. It is a clear tasting beer. Lager. Modern method of producing lager were pioneered by Gabriel Sedelmaier the Younger, who preferred dark brown lager at the Spatz Brewery in Bavarian 1840s to 1841. With improved modern yeast strain, most lager breweries used only short period of cold strong, typically 1 to 3 weeks. Okay, let's moving to your okay. Before moving to the brewing process, we can discuss about the fining agent. So fining agents basically the brighten agent added to the color and brighten the beer. There's a word come bladder, air bladder of the various phase. So which is basically it's the icing glass is commonly used as a fining agent which is obtained from air bladder of various fish, especially sturgeon. So name of the fish is used. The name of the fish is sturgeon. It attracts all the sediment to the bottom of course. Right. All right. Okay. So moving to the brewing process. Brewing process is start with the malting. There's a process malting, milling, mashing, mashing of the grains, milling of the grains, malting of the barley, the grains, lautering, boiling, fermenting, conditioning, filtering, and packaging. So these are the steps involved in beer production or a brewing, right? So malting, you can see malting, which kind of malt you will use? Barley, right? So use barley, and then another step is milling. Milling means mixing of barley with the water, like soaking the barley with the water, right? Next is mashing. Another one is mashing. Okay, malting we can right. You can just one by one you can read the recognize the step, and we will go in detail in another slide. Malting, first one, and then milling, mashing, lautering, boiling, fermenting, conditioning, filtering, and packaging. See, malting, when we talk about the malting basically the first step in production of beer. So malting, as you can see there, here, malting is the first step of production of beer. In malting process, the starch in the cereal is converted to soluble sugar. So in the malting process, the starch is converted to producing a sugar. Next, barley is soaked in water for about 3 days and then is spread in malting. In milling process, the water is soaked by like 1 or 2 or 3 days. And moisture, warmth, and oxygen are necessary for the growth. And moisture is made available by the soaking warmth and by spreading the flour and malting acid. And in this, we have to take out the grains and spread on the floor so that it can be germinate, right? Okay, this is the structure. This is the process. Barley grain is made ready for brewing, broken down into three. So before this, we have to go one by one. You can see here that would be very clear. So in the process of in the production of beer, there is a malting. Malting, you have to take the grain. You can see here. You have to take the grain, fill on it, malting, and you have to add some water, boil it. Then it's further go to the mashing vessels. Mashing vessels is mash the product on the temperature of 70, 63 to 73 degrees Celsius, and then the lautering. Then the lautering goes is then another compounds for the boiling for settle down the things, and then again go to the tank for whirlpooling. Then it's come down for the cooling section. After the cooling section, there is fermented tanks is there, because when you ferment the liquid, your liquid should be cold. Then we have to some extra we have to add some extra heat, and it this process will take 3 to 4 days. And then after the fermentation is you have to leave for 2 to 4 week or longer. Then it's go for the maturation process. After the maturation, we have to filter fine, and then it is stored in a bottle or a case or a beer glasses, right? See, cooling, the water is then cooled under 15 degrees. The temperature of the cooling is 15 degrees Celsius. Okay. And in fermentation process, you must have learned before. You have learned earlier is the name of the fermentation process is yeast are using it Saccharomyces cerevisiae and Saccharomyces cultivaris. Are their types of yeast added depend on the type of beer being produced. So what kind of we are producing on the whole fermenting process? Accordingly, we have to add. type of yeast, right? During the maturation, the yeast settled, harsh flavors mellow, and beer get its natural texture and carbonation. Then it's clarified and then it's filtered and packaging. Packaging, the beer are packed into sterilized cask, cage, bottles, and cans. Some draft beer are bottled and canned beer are pasteurized by subjecting them to steam of 140 Fahrenheit or above 60 degrees Celsius for 18 minutes to sterilize and lengthen a shelf life of beer. The beer is cooled, labeled, packed, and distributed for sales. Beer come in following containers depending on market. As you all know, the cask and the case and bottles and cans and tanks. Alright, okay.